Fashion Crunch. My name is Alex Batdorf. I'm the CMO of ZipFit Denim. We simplify and customize men's jeans shopping. Today my guest is Jeremiah Green of Purely Fashion. Thanks for being here, Jeremiah.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about Purely Fashion, how it works, and what inspired you to start it.
Sure. So Purely Fashion at the moment is a designer discovery platform that aggregates fashion from around the world as it's coming out. And so it's a great way for you to keep up on the most recent fashion, what styles are trending, and also to save styles for later that you want to go back and take a look at. So we've been doing this for about a year. And we always knew that we were going to be an e-commerce company. What we have learned in the last year is that a lot of people that use our app want to buy a lot of the things that we have in our discovery side. Okay. But having that year for us was really important because we learned a lot about what our consumers actually wanted. And basically it was, they want to buy these items, at the same time they can't afford a lot of those items because they were right off the runway, kind of hard to get, not impossible, but definitely hard to get, very aspirational type of clothing. But at the same time, most of those items were probably over $1,000, if not up to $10,000, $12,000. So we started thinking about that in a really pervasive way, and we kind of came to the conclusion: how can we tap into a consumer's aspiration while delivering them a price accessible object that makes them feel a certain way? And so now what our outlook is combining those two ideas and running private flash sales to our users that make things price accessible, but also we add value by styling outfits together for people with this concept of the more, if you buy the entire outfit, you even save even more money. And so for us, the typical flash sale would be 50 to 70% off a normal retail price. If you buy an entire outfit, it's going to be more like 70 to 80% off. So
That's a good deal.
yeah.
Awesome. And you have a very interesting background for someone that hopped into fashion. You used to run your family's catering business, and then you started Purely Fashion. What do you feel are the pros and the cons of not necessarily having a strong background in the fashion industry, but having a company in the industry?
Sure. So some of the pros and some of the cons are kind of the same. So
Okay.
in one way, it depends on how you look at it. Some of the pros, I think when you step into an industry and you study it academically, you don't necessarily understand the historical perspective as well as somebody who's been in the industry. And that's a pro because there's not someone or some little thing in your head that's telling you you can't do something.
Yeah.
So discovering a business model or figuring out how the industry works, if you keep an open mind and you're objective, I think it's a very good way to enter into a marketplace because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And usually the innovators are the guys or the people, the women who figure it out once they're faced with obstacles. So from that, it's definitely a pro, I think.
Yeah.
A big con would be the fact that from a relationship perspective, I cannot at the moment call the head of wholesale at Alice and Olivia or brands like that. Had I had some significant history in the marketplace, I think that it would have been easier for me to get in the door with brands. I think I would have been more connected. I think it would have just been easier to penetrate the market and get things done.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we talked a little bit yesterday about the fashion community in Chicago, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
What do you feel Chicago could do to attract and retain talent right here in Chicago?
I think the first thing is starting early, starting young. So it has to start with education. And those educational systems have to be tied into the city programs. And the city programs and the educational systems have to be tied into the commerce ecosystem somehow. And if you notice, if you look at New York, they have the CFDA that's supported by a greater level of organization, a greater level of city input, and also a greater level of business people who are influential. And I think when you combine all those things, you really can build up a community that has prospects. Internationally, nationally, locally. And that's what New York has done. Here, it's a bit fragmented. I don't think commerce really talks to the feeder college systems that are here, the School of the Art Institute, Columbia, design colleges, any of that. I don't think that they're connected. And so that does a bit of a disservice for the local talent that's here, because there is this lack of cooperation.
Yeah.
You know.
So, you guys work with designers all around the world, right?
Yes.
How do you build those partnerships? You're saying, you know, the con of not being in this industry or having a background in it is that meeting someone from Alice and Olivia isn't as, you know, accessible. So how are you currently partnering with brands both locally and internationally? Is it a different approach? Are there different incentives based on growth?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And it's more on how we frame our business. So for the smaller designers that we talk to, whether they smaller in terms of production, smaller in terms of proliferation, in terms of retail sales, smaller in terms of brand awareness, that sort of thing, but the gems that are really important to fashion. I love those brands because those are brands that are potential couple $100 million brands one day, I think. So those brands right now, what their needs are somewhat twofold, but most importantly out of the two things, which would be sort of market exposure to the right group, as well as inventory management, depending on how big they are. I think the most important thing for them is exposure. Because when you create a groundswell of need for a particular brand, the rest of the retail will follow. And, you know, trends don't start in large, proliferated businesses. Trends start in small pockets of socio and geographical economic pockets of the world. Brooklyn and Austin and LA and all these, you know, little micro places. That's where these things start. And they start with, you know, smaller gems of artisans who are designers, jewelry makers, trendsetters, whomever. And so I think what they need is they need help with exposure into the right audience. They need help with digital marketing and media. And they need a platform where they can really, with high integrity, show their vision and describe to people what they're about. Yeah. Because I think, take for instance, we have a sweater company that's coming on board. Nice. Called Banjo and Matilda, right? They're from Australia. Cute name, amazing sweaters, all cashmere. And they're trying to get a foothold in America. And for what we offer them is a platform where, you know, all we have to do is make it price accessible and get it in the hands of, you know, one of our customers, and all of a sudden that customer becomes a brand evangelist. And that becomes that can become a trend. It can become something special of significance. That's our goal with the smaller designers. The larger designers who don't necessarily need us to sell things, it's a different approach. And the approach is, you know, there is a millennial segment of the market that is highly active, highly social, that is yearning to understand the newest brand or yearning to understand what your brand is about, because maybe they've seen your label at Nordstrom or Neiman Marcus or Saks. They haven't been able to afford you. Or not only can they afford you, but they don't understand really what you're about. They're about to grow up. They're about to earn more money. they're about to be able to buy first run things in the next 5 years. Let's introduce your brand to them in a real high integrity way, make it price accessible, but create from a marketing perspective your own story for this group of people, because as the population ages, this is the group that's going to spend the most on ready to wear, advanced contemporary luxury goods and fashion in the world. So let's get into them now, but let's do it in the right way.
Yeah, because a lot of people are trying to break into millennials right now. I think that's
Absolutely.
I feel like when I read a lot of articles now, millennials are the number one target people are trying to go after.
I agree. Absolutely. They are on track to spend from a consumer standpoint. They're going to outspend Gen X and Gen Y combined in the next 10 to 15 years on luxury goods alone. Now, whatever you want to call it, luxury goods, I'm just grouping in fashion, consumables, luxury, high-end, advanced contemporary. I'm kind of
everything,
bringing it all in, yeah.
Yeah, it's still good, good stat to know.
Yeah, and that's why they're coveted, and that's why some of the mature brands, there are several discovery platforms out there, some of which are just, will take you off-site from an affiliate standpoint. Some will sell you items right off their site. Some won't sell you anything, like us. But the difference is between us and a lot of e-commerce sites from a discovery perspective is right now we're just showing people aspirational images.
Yeah.
And we tag each one of those images by this huge taxonomy that we've developed that has color and style and trend, season. The list is very long. And over time, we have this mechanism by which you can like things and save them for later and come back to them. And when you're doing that, over time, we can develop what your fashion personality is from an aspirational standpoint, which is a much more powerful way to understand who you are rather than just a practical standpoint. And a lot of e-commerce businesses use that liking function, use the wish list function in order to understand what you like and this, that, and the other, and that's great. But if you know that it's for sale right now, and there's a price on it, there's a practicality sort of idea that's in your head that may influence you to like something or not like something. We've taken that out and we've measured it. And so what we're going to do is over time we've developed an understanding of what our customers' fashion personality is, and that will inform us at a later date as to how to market to them and also curate what they're seeing on our site.
And do you feel that fashion discovery platforms will evolve with bigger retailers and fashion brands? So will we see them more implementation on websites to link back, or will we see it in stores? Where do you see fashion discovery platforms evolving with the industry?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that I think there's definitely a bifurcation between retailers and online players, and then there's a further bifurcation between retail players themselves. So there are some that are really forward thinking and are doing some really great things. I think what Nordstrom is doing with Outlook is really smart. It just fits into their business overall because they have the Nordstrom rack and they can move the inventory between their 3 or 4 different types of businesses depending on what customer you are. Even though, from a discovery standpoint, I still think they can do a much better job. I think all retailers can do a much better job by understanding people's fashion personality before they even get there. Now, how they do that, I think it remains to be seen. I think we're building a platform that a lot of retailers could look at and say, that's really interesting. I really want that information, because it's not just age, demo, where they're located, that sort of thing. It's age, demo, where they're located from a consumer standpoint, and also fashion preferences down from a pretty granular perspective. Yeah. So that's another piece of something that we're doing, is that we're building, even though it's a private list and no one has access to it but us in order to make those informed decisions. I think the world will someday go there, because technology is just a means of understanding ourselves and understanding others. And if we use it right, those retailers will utilize their customers' preferences in a much more profound way.
That's a great way of looking at it. So what can we expect from Purely Fashion in 2015 and beyond?
Well, we are currently launching our private sale, flash sale aspect. It's coming out in November. We're really excited about it. We're putting the merchandising plan together right now. We have several partners on board, great brands that have agreed to participate. And so we're going to be the one company that will sell an entire outfit on a private sale basis or flash sale basis. And with this concept of the more you buy, the more you sell, build your dream closet, have an opportunity to experience real fashion. Let's steal some wallet share away from the fast fashion retailers that are out there, Zara and H&M. That's really our goal at the end of the day.
I think a lot of designers have been needing this for a long time
Yeah.
too, so I'm sure a lot are excited.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for being here with me today and chatting about Purely Fashion. You can check out Purely Fashion on the iTunes store, download their app, and make sure to tune in to the next Fashion Crunch episode.